The following program is brought to you by friends and partners of End Time Headlines.
It's July 1st, 2024. This is End Time Headlines, news and headlines from a prophetic perspective. I am your host, Ricky Scaprell, the founder and the voice of End Time Headlines. And we want to welcome you to tonight's program. Listen, if this is your first time joining us via by Apple, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, whatever platform in which you're able, please do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, help us push our material out, help others to get eyes on our messages, all of our podcasts, our equipping message, our information messages, all these things. We would love for you guys to do that for us. Also, if it's your first time joining us, let us know in the comment section below where you guys are joining us from and what city, what state, where you're at. We'd love to hear from you as well. So I'm going to talk about a couple things tonight. First of all, we're going to start off talking about this hurricane. This is significant, and here's why. If you guys remember, predictions for 2024 for this hurricane season are extremely high. We're on high alert, and there's multiple factors in this, and I'm going to give those to you. Just kind of recap here, and we'll go from there. First of all, we're in an El Nino condition, we're in El Nino conditions rather, where in which the presence of El Nino, which is a periodic warming of sea surface temperatures in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean, potentially will cause influence on weather patterns. El Nino can alter atmospheric conditions, reducing vertical wind shear in the Atlantic, which is conducive to hurricane development and intensification. So we have El Nino conditions. Then we have higher sea surface temperatures above average in the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. All of this is providing all the energy needed for storm formation and growth. These warmer waters can and will lead to more intensification and frequent hurricanes. And that's exactly what we're seeing unfolding right now. And we're going to get into that. Favorable atmospheric conditions. These are predictions based on expected favorable atmospheric conditions such as lower wind shear and more conducive environment for storm development. When you cup all this together, it is the perfect storm, literally, to shatter records. And this is exactly what we're seeing, guys, that's unfolding and playing out right now. Hurricane Beryl, which is now at the recording of this, is a Category 4 hurricane. It is in a trajectory and it is racing across the Windward Islands, and it poses the greatest risk to lives and the likelihood of destruction from winds and storm surge prior to pushing across the Caribbean. Why is this significant? What is the significance of this? Well, this particular hurricane has already made history. Multiple outlets reported this yesterday. Want to get you up to par with this. Hurricane Beryl has been breaking records already in the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. This is the first one out the gate, guys. And they are calling this an ominous sign for the hurricane season of 2024. It became the earliest Category 4 hurricane ever recorded in the month of June. It is also the strongest hurricane in the month of June on record in the Atlantic Basin. This hurricane formed yesterday, it formed on June 28th, 2024. It underwent rapid intensification as it moved through the central tropical Atlantic, reaching Category 4 strength with maximum sustained winds that exceeded over 130 miles an hour. Again, this all comes, guys, on this season that is being predicted to be a highly active, historic, and record-breaking season. Let me read this to you. This is from USA Today. Hurricane Beryl, supercharged by warm seas, and look at this, stuns experts. I'm just going to give you the verbiage that they use here. Hurricane experts and meteorologists watched in shock over the weekend as Tropical Storm Beryl continued to strengthen quickly into the tropical Atlantic Ocean far earlier than storms typically do, with the record warm ocean temperatures helping to make history. Within a 24-hour period after forming as a tropical depression, Beryl's winds had reached hurricane strength around 75 miles an hour by 5 p.m. on Saturday, with an impressive form on satellite images. The National Hurricane Center forecast projected it this weekend, Saturday afternoon, that favorable conditions would help Beryl rapidly intensify to a major hurricane with wind speeds reaching 115 miles an hour. Now, we know, again, this is already outdated because it's already went to a Category 4, and again, it's heading right to the Caribbean. One research scientist at the University of Miami's Rosenstiel School on his formerly known as Twitter page, or his account, stated Saturday morning that, quote, if you ask the water in the Caribbean Sea what day it was as this is unfolding, it would guess, or it would tell you it was September 10th. So guys, the reason why I'm saying this is just to give you an idea or a perspective on how historical this is, how big of a deal this is. For this to have this kind of strength, momentum, and to be breaking records like this in the month of June, this is absolutely unprecedented. And this is why, again, forecasters are saying this could very well be an ominous sign of things to come. The warm ocean temperatures continue a record-breaking trend that began in May of 2023. Like many scientists, McNulty has repeatedly stressed that by exceedingly warm temperature in the Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean Sea, and Gulf of Mexico, in June, he called the water temperatures in the region where hurricanes typically develop in the Atlantic absolutely stunning. He even stated on his Twitter account, you'd think the shock value of this would wear off, but it's becoming more shocking. So far in this year, 2024, ocean heat content has been hotter on most days than the record set last summer. He said, quote, that's dangerous for hurricane season because warm water is like a big, juicy energy drink for hurricanes, supplying warm moisture that helps fuel the inner core structure that makes storms stronger. By Sunday morning, yesterday, Beryl had become the third earliest major hurricane on record in the entire Atlantic region, trailing only Alma, however you pronounce that, on June 8th, 1966, and Audrey on June 27th, 1957. Since 1851, only two previous hurricanes on record have been within 100 miles of Barbados prior to August 1st, Emily in 2005 and Elsa in 2021. And he went on further, Michael Lowry, who is a hurricane specialist at WPLG Local 10 News in Miami, stated that, quote, it is astonishing to see a forecast for a major Category 3 plus hurricane in June anywhere in the Atlantic, let alone this far east in the deep tropics. Again, he was a former National Hurricane Center specialist. Now, I'm going to pull this scripture up. Most of you guys who follow our program and our ministry, you should be very familiar with this passage. But again, we always get newcomers, we get new viewers, new listeners. So I want to give you this. This is Luke 21, verses 25 through 26, okay? I believe that there is some language here that indicate that what we're seeing right now, what we're witnessing, what we're discussing today on this program is going to be something that's going to be a regular occurrence, and it's only going to increase. It's going to become more. I'm going to quote what that meteorologist said. He said, "You would think the shock value would wear off, and it becomes more and more shocking." And I think this is what we're going to see as we get on, as we move closer to the end of the age and the coming of the Son of Man, and as we enter into the tribulation period. Okay, we're not there yet. We're not in the tribulation. We're in the birth pangs of the Messiah. Okay, this is Luke 21:25. I'll start there. And there will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. We've talked all about that this year. Go back and listen to our spring podcast. We talked about the solar eclipse over America that was historical and a once-in-a-lifetime event that was, I believe, a harbinger for America. And then we had a horned devil comet that came through that had not been seen since the 1800s. The last time that there was a war between America and Britain was when this was seen. It was also the same comet that allegedly was seen during the 1811-1812 New Madrid earthquake that blew, a series of earthquakes, and it blew in 1811-1812. And it caused major damage back then, but if it were to happen again, they said it would be catastrophic. During that time, this comet, they're saying that this was the same comet. I believe they called it the Tecumseh comet back then, but now they're saying this thing has circled back around through our solar system, went back through, and it came to the closest to the sun and the earth. Then we had the solar flares that was released that caused auroras to go all the way down farther south, even into the state of Florida. So we definitely seen our share of signs in the sun, moon, and stars. We've got a star exploding that they're saying is a once in a lifetime event. But then he goes on to say, and on earth, distress of nations. Again, this word distress means the intensification of the unrest of the nations. And he uses this word perplexity. Okay, confusion, madness, chaos, uncertainty, all this stuff is happening with the nations. And then he gets to this part right here, the sea and the waves roaring. Somebody say the seas and the waves roaring. Okay, when I did a study on this, I was looking this up, and you have to think about this. What are the possible scenarios that would produce the waves and seas roaring? And if you go back to Luke 21, let me pull this back up. I pulled it away too soon. Let me pull it back up because I want to show you this. Okay, he says, and the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming upon the earth. So we're going to, based on, because there was not a period there. Okay, it was an entire sentence. It says, the waves and seas roarings, and men's hearts failing them for fear of the expectation of the things which are coming upon the earth. So I believe these are one and the same in these events. So something's going to happen that's going to produce waves and seas roaring, and the expectations of whatever's coming on the earth, the fear of that is going to produce men's hearts to stop and fail. Well, guys, there's only so many scenarios that this could play out. Number one, earthquakes. Earthquakes can cause tsunamis. When there's an undersea earthquake that transpires, it can displace a large volume of water, generating waves that will travel across the oceans at high speeds. This is nothing new. This has happened in times past. Volcanic eruptions can produce this. Volcanic eruptions that occur underwater or even near the coast can displace water and again generate these giant tsunamis, causing the waves and seas to roar. Even landslides, like up out in the West Coast in California. Did you know that they're saying that there's a volcano on the Canary Islands that is off of the east coast of the United States? Like if you was to go from the east coast out across the ocean, there is what's called the Canary Islands. They said if there was a volcanic eruption, they said it's not a matter of if, but when. One day, when this volcano erupts, on the Canary Islands, it's going to cause a massive landslide to fall into the ocean. And as a result of that, it will cause massive tsunami waves to come and strike the East Coast. Here's another scenario, a meteorite or an asteroid impact. This is extremely rare, but we know that, again, historically, this has happened before. Okay? And then we know in the book of Revelation, there's an asteroid coming called wormwood. And the Bible even says that it is, the word wormwood comes from bitter, because it will cause the waters to become bitter, because it will strike a mass amount of ocean, and it will cause all this water to become bitter. It will be undrinkable. Okay, so it'll cause massive destruction. And no doubt, if it was to strike anywhere in the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian, the Mediterranean, it's going to cause, again, massive tsunamis. And then we have man-made scenarios. For example, it could be accidental, deliberate, underwater nuclear test, a nuclear war, the detonation of nuclear weapons. Remember the Poseidon missiles that Russia, they have come out and they've warned that they have these Poseidon torpedoes or these missiles that are able to cause these massive, they called it 100, 200 foot wave radioactive tsunamis. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about Luke 21 talks about there will be the waves and seas roaring and men's hearts failing them for fear of the expectation of those things coming upon the earth. Now think about, there's a few of these things, guys, that the expectation of that could cause this. Now earthquakes are unpredictable, so you can't really expect that. We're being informed. For example, let me give you one example of this. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a recent article. This was from NBC News. Researchers gained the clearest picture yet of a fault line that threatens the Pacific Northwest. This is an underwater fault line that experts now are saying could devastate the West Coast with a major earthquake and tsunami, and researchers have mapped it comprehensively for the first time. This silent fault line is threatening hundreds of miles of coastline with tsunamis and devastating earthquakes. For decades, scientists have warned about the potential of the Cascadia subduction zone, which is a megathrust fault that runs offshore along the coast from northern Vancouver Island to Cape Mendocino, California. Please, if I slaughtered that, please forgive me. When the fault or even a portion of it next snaps, it will reshape life in Oregon, Washington, and Northern California. Of particular concern are signals of massive earthquakes in the region's geologic history. Many researchers have chased clues of the last big one, which is an 8.7 magnitude earthquake in the year 1700. They pieced together the event's history using centuries-old records of tsunamis, Native American oral histories, physical evidence, and ghost forests drowned by salt water and limited maps of the fault. But no one had mapped the fault structure comprehensively until now. According to a new study published recently in the journal Science Advances, describes data gathered during a 41-day research voyage in which a vessel trailed a miles-long cable along the fault to listen to the seafloor and piece together an image. What did they find out? The team completed a detailed map of more than 550 miles of the subduction zone down to the Oregon-California border. The report indicates that the scientists discovered that the subduction zone is much more complex than they previously understood it to be. It is divided into 4 segments that the researchers believe could rupture independently of one another or together all at once. Wow, think about that. The segments have different type of rocks and varying seismic characteristics, meaning some could be more dangerous than others. Earthquake and tsunami modelers are beginning to assess how the new data affects earthquake scenarios for the Pacific Northwest. Now, I want to read this to you. Quote, Harold Tobin, a co-author of the paper and the director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, said, although the data will help fine-tune projections, it does not change a tough-to-swallow reality of living in the Pacific Northwest. Now, think about what we read in Luke 21. The waves and seas roarings and men's hearts failing them for fear of and expectation of those things which are coming upon the earth. Now I'm going to read this quote from, again, he is a co-author and director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. So this guy has done his homework on this research about this particular fault line there on the West Coast. And here's what he says, quote, here it is right here. We have the potential for earthquakes and tsunamis as large as the biggest ones we've ever experienced on the planet. Now, how many believes that falls right in line with fear and expectation of those things which are coming upon the earth? Waves and seas roarings. This could produce all of this, guys. A quake this powerful He went on, he talks about the Cascadia Fault is capable of generating a magnitude 9 or a little smaller or a little bigger. And a quake that powerful could cause shaking that lasts 5 minutes and generate tsunami waves up to 80 feet tall. It would damage well over 500,000 buildings. Neither Oregon nor Washington is sufficiently prepared. Now, if something of that magnitude was to take place, here's what you could expect. Now, again, if you guys live on the West Coast, this is something that you probably need to pay attention to. The primary impact of this would be severe ground shaking, potentially lasting several minutes. This would cause widespread destruction of buildings, infrastructure, and homes, especially in coastal cities like Seattle, Portland, and Vancouver. The fault line has the potential to rupture, and this would lead to the displacement of the ground surface. Roads, bridges, and utilities crossing the fault line would be severely damaged or even completely destroyed. Landslides. Remember we talked about that a while ago? The shaking would undoubtedly trigger landslides in hilly and mountainous areas in California and again in Seattle and Portland, blocking roads and damaging buildings. You would also you would likely see liquefaction if it's an earthquake that's large enough. This is where areas with loose water, saturated soils, and the shaking would cause the ground to behave like a liquid, undermining foundations and causing buildings to sink or tilt completely. And then, of course, it would generate a tsunami. A massive tsunami could be generated by the earthquake, with waves potentially reaching coastal areas within 15 to 30 minutes from the initial impact of the earthquake. Coastal communities would need to evacuate immediately to avoid being swallowed up by the waves. The tsunami could also travel across the Pacific Ocean, affecting distant coastlines, including Japan, Hawaii, and other Pacific Rim countries. But that's not all, guys. We don't think about this, but gas lines, electrical systems would all be damaged, and there would be widespread fires. I remember in California, what was it, in the 1990s, I think that happened. What was that, 94? I know it was during a World Series game, I think that happened. You would have infrastructure damage. Transportation networks, water supplies, sewage systems, and communication systems would all be severely disrupted. This would hinder emergency responses, efforts, and prolong recovery times. The economic cost of such of a disaster of this would probably rank into the billions, considering the damage to infrastructure, loss of businesses, and long-term rebuilding efforts required, search and rescue, and the list goes on. And of course, the casualties and displacement would be unimaginable today because, again, the population is so huge. The force of the tsunami could lead to significant coastal erosion, altering the landscape. I want to say this with kind of like a fear of the Lord when I say this, but listen guys, there's been many men of God in the past who has either had a word from God, a vision, a dream, whatever the case may be, and they saw earthquakes so large in the future that would strike the West Coast that it would literally sink California into the ocean. And again, this is possible, guys, if the perfect storm of events was to take place. And again, this type of earthquake and tsunami would disrupt local ecosystems, affecting marine life and coastal habitats. So the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is we don't definitively know what's going to be the source of the waves and seas roaring, but I think we've given you a good picture of this and what's coming. And now, we're seeing these hurricanes that just keep intensifying in their wind speeds and the enormity of how big they're getting and how quickly they're developing. It's, again, shattering records. It's stunning experts and leaving the whole community of these people that study these things bewildered. Now, I want to leave one last scenario here because I do have to cover this before we move on to our next topic tonight. And that is, we need to pay very close attention to how this current administration handles the nation of Israel. Because again, I know we just had this silly debate, and I know we're heading into November, but guys, we still have to finish out several more months. We have several more months. We have to finish out the year 2024 with the current president in office right now with Joe Biden. And my concern is, again, with everything that's going on in Israel and them advancing their military operations and expanding it into Lebanon, my concern is, how is this current administration going to handle the nation of Israel? If they push, and by the way, this question got brought up in the debate, and both of them, Biden and Trump, avoided this like the plague. But the question was proposed to Trump, and he completely avoided the topic. He completely ignored it, and he moved on to a whole different subject. But they asked him, the moderators asked him, would you push for a two-state solution? And again, the interpretation of that is, would you divide Jerusalem for land? Because that's what it's going to take. That's literally what it would take to do that. Okay, so if this current administration at the time of this recording is the Biden administration, if they push for this, which they have been behind closed doors, okay, but they have yet to do this out openly. But if they, in the next, 7 months, 8 months, if they push for this, I'm telling you, I'd be very concerned with the very things that we're talking about right now. Also, the shedding of innocent blood. That topic got brought up in the debate as well. And even though the Supreme Court decision to shoot down Roe versus Wade, all that, but now they're trying to go by state level. Again, if this stuff is overthrown and they ignore all this and they again push for this, I'm telling you, there's going to be consequences to this. So these are things I'm concerned about, and this is what leads me to believe that in a form of judgment, any one of these scenarios could play. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, the nuclear war on our front, on our soil, and the list goes on. So I couldn't leave that stone unturned. I had to go there with this and talk about this, because this is something, again, this is why it's important for you and I to be in prayer about this and be concerned about this and be watchful and to warn the people, because again, we've covered the whole segments on this. Any nation, any leader, whether it's American or outside of America, when they start pushing for the division of Jerusalem and for this peace for land, there always is disasters that follow. And we did a whole entire podcast covering that particular subject. You can go to our archives. You can look it up. There's no way I'm going to have time to cover that on this podcast. All right, I'm going to move on to a whole different subject. This one's bizarre. In recent years, there's been a noticeable increase in cancer rates among younger people, a trend that has raised concern among researchers and healthcare professionals. And there's many speculations of what is actually causing this. Lifestyle factors, such as increased consumption of processed foods, higher rates of obesity, sedentary behavior believed to contribute to, again, all this could help contribute to raising cancer rates in younger people. Environmental exposures, such as pollutants, chemicals, radiation, genetic predisposition. We're talking about hereditary things leading, again, genetically could do this. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. The ouchie ouch, read between the lines. There's been notable cases of that, of cancer rates going way up since the introduction of that in 2020 or whatever the case would be. But again, don't miss it. There's been an increased level of this, and we're not going to talk about this specifically. Hang on with me. Don't lose me yet, because I'm going to talk about this bizarre direction that the healthcare system's going in, and we're in artificial intelligence, okay? But I'm going to show you how we're getting there. Quote, now doctors face new cancer crisis, mystery rise of lung tumors in young people who have never smoked. This is just an example of what we're talking about tonight. Scientists are trying to unravel the mysterious rise in early onset colon cancers. Now, according to this article, I'm going to scroll down here. Researchers believe that the way new homes are being built may be exposing residents to a poisonous gas. Oh, that's nice. They also say vaping and cannabis could be factors. Now, again, I don't want to get in a whole debate on, is it the poisonous gas from new construction? Is it vaping or is it cannabis? You guys can debate that out in the chat. I'm not going to sit here and lean towards one another because this is really not what I want to really focus on in this segment, in this latter portion of this segment of our podcast, because I want to show you where we're going in the future when it comes to healthcare. Here's another interesting headline, quote, unusual cancers emerged after the pandemic. Doctors ask if wah-wah is to blame. Was it the virus that's to blame, or was it something else that came about from the virus that's to blame? I'm not going to dig into that because I want to keep our broadcast up on this platform. But again, here's where I want to go with this. This is really where I want to home in. The world's first artificial intelligence hospital has been unveiled in China with robot doctors who can treat up to 3,000 patients a day and will save millions of lives. Now, I know we knew it was going to be China, right? Again, they spearhead everything that's weird, unconventional, creepy, and dangerous, and anything behind a laboratory, behind closed doors, in some secret factory. They're going to be the ones that's going to have their hands right in the middle of it, and this is no exception. Dubbed Agent Hospital, the virtual facility will have the potential to save millions through its autonomous interaction. Look at this. Look at this picture on your screen. These are AI robots. You won't see physicians. You won't see doctors. You won't see a medical staff. You'll see AI physicians. I'm going to scroll down. Let's look at this. AI was able to simulate the entire process of diagnosing and treating patients during testing. Think about that. You go in to see a physician for an illness, a sickness, something going on, something you're concerned about, a lump, a mole, something's going on with your throat, whatever. And instead of talking to a flesh and blood individual, you walk in, you're greeted with this stuff, and then they run a complete diagnostic and test and everything without ever flesh and blood in the scenario whatsoever. Look at this. Here's another picture of this. Here's a human being laying on an operating table with AI medical professionals, doing the diagnosis on them. Is this not the creepiest thing you've ever seen? And this is what's coming. This is where they want this to go to. Developed by researchers in Beijing, the AI hospital is so advanced that it already aims to be operational by the second half of 2024. So as the recording of this is already probably in motion. This is already open to the general public. People in China, in Beijing, are already being treated by these AI robots. Thanks to its simulated environment and ability to autonomously evolve, AI doctors will be able to treat up to 10,000 patients within a matter of days. Stop. Do I have anybody? Hit me up in the chat. If you are in the medical field, a nurse practitioner, an assistant, an RN, whatever it is, you're in the medical field, your job could literally be taken. If this takes off, and I believe it will, and it spreads to America, and of course you already know it's going to. Come on, who are we kidding here? If you want to see what's coming to America, look what's going on with China. Do we really want to go there everything from wacky, crazy experiments to viruses to technology to social credit scoring systems to biometrics, retina display, facial recognition, the fingerprint recognition, palm scanning, all that stuff. Who do you think spearheaded all that stuff? It was China. And they're the guinea pigs that initiate this stuff, and then it comes right over here to America, and we just buy it hook, line, and sinker. So all you guys in the medical field, in the chat right there, my own wife is in the medical field. She's a nurse practitioner. She knows this. We've talked about this in detail, how even her job is threatened to be taken in the near future. This is insanity. I don't know about you, but when I go to a doctor, I don't want to talk to a humanoid, an AI, a cyborg, a machine. I want to talk to an individual who's done the research, who's seen it firsthand and has experience. Are you hearing me today? Listen, maybe you're of a different opinion. Maybe you're of the opinion of, well, I don't see anything wrong with this. This is great. This is wonderful news. I just don't see that. To put it in perspective, to see 10,000 patients in a matter of days, it would take at least 2 years for human doctors to achieve the same numbers. See, guys, these are going to be the selling points to sell this stuff. This is why hospitals in the medical field will eat this stuff up right here, because again, we are nothing but numbers. That's why cashiers in retail is gone, and grocery chains, they're gone, and they've replaced them with kiosks. They've replaced them with self-checkout. They've replaced all these AIs, replacing everything. Tests conducted by Chinese researchers have already shown AI doctor agents achieve an impressive 93.06% accuracy rate on the MedQA data set, which is the U.S. medical licensing exam questions. Covering major respiratory diseases, the virtual medical professionals were able to simulate the entire process of diagnosing and treating patients. This included consultation, examination, diagnosis, treatment, and follow-up procedures. Again, eliminating all necessity for a human being to be anywhere near this. The virtual world will see all doctors, nurses, and patients driven by large language model-powered intelligent agents. The raw information for the AI doctors can also be infinitely expanded. Now, there's one line in here that's going to be a real selling point for U.S. politicians. Here it is. Ready? Watch this. Another motivator behind the AI hospital is creating affordable care for the public. Oh, what better way to sell this than a politician to get up and say, hey, now there is affordable health care. Now we're going to make it affordable because we've eliminated the need to pay human doctors, nurses, faculty, and staff. Now we have AIs, we have robots, we have humanoids, we have, yes, holograms. I'm getting ready to show you an article, and this one, it's right on, it dovetails with what we're talking about today. And this will be a selling point. This will be a selling point, again, for quote-unquote affordable health care. Listen what this says. As diagnostic capabilities of AI doctors translate through to the real world, it will bring with it high-quality, affordable, and convenient healthcare services. All right, look at this article. This is from DNYUZ. Your hologram doctor will see you now. Let me give you a scenario. A patient walks into a hospital room, sits down, and starts talking to a doctor. Only in this case, there is no physical flesh and blood doctor. The doctor is a hologram. It might sound like science fiction, but it's the reality for some patients, not in China, which we know it is now because we just told you that. But look at this. Let me show you this on the screen so you can, if you got family, you got friends that live in Texas, you may want to know this. Here is the actual headline. I'm going to read this again. It may sound like science fiction, but it is. Not it will be. It is the reality for some patients at Crescent Regional Hospital in Lancaster, Texas. So they're already implementing hologram doctors. What the heck is this? In May, the hospital group began offering patients the ability to see their doctor remotely as a hologram through a partnership with holographic, which is a digital technology firm based in the Netherlands. Each hollow box, the company's name for its 440-pound, 7-foot-tall device that displays on a screen a highly realistic 3D live video of a person, cost about $42,000 with an additional annual service fee of $1,900. The high-quality image gives the patient the feeling that a doctor is sitting inside the box, when in reality, the doctor is miles away looking into cameras and displays showing the patient. By the way, guys, I've already had a taste of this. When I went to my eye doctor for my eye exam, there was no doctor physically there. The entire procedure, I sat down, looked at the chart, all this stuff, and there was this machine they put over my eyes, and the doctor was there and did the whole procedure remotely. They adjusted my left eye, they adjusted my right eye, they pulled up the chart, they did all this, they looked in it, they did everything remotely, the doctor, and I thought it was the weirdest and creepiest thing. So I'm already seeing the trickles of this. I'm already seeing the small footprints leading up to this myself. The system allows the patient and doctor to have a telehealth visit in real time that feels more like an in-person conversation. For now, the service is used mostly for pre- and post-operative visits. Crescent regional executives who have plans to expand the service to traditional appointments. There it is. What did I tell you? Did I not tell you that if China starts it, we'll jump on board? And here you have a hospital in the state of Texas that's already jumping board on this. Some of the benefits of the hologram are less tangible, but still significantly improve the patient's experience. This was according to Steve Sterling, who is the managing director of the North American division of HoloConnects. Quote, "We're not going to affect patient outcomes, but what we are already impacting upon is a sense of engagement between doctors and patients." 12 hotels already have HoloBox. That's the technology with these holograms. And there are plans to install the system in 18 more locations. Guys, listen to me. This is exactly the technology and the innovation that I have been warning about that is going to be implemented in the image of the beast in Revelation 13. I know you guys have heard this till you're blue in the face, but I am a watchman that's going to keep sounding the alarm, blowing the trumpet, and preaching this until either I go to be with the Lord or the Lord blasts that trumpet. Come on, and I hear, "Come up here," and I'm taken up in a moment and a twinkling of an eye, and mortality is swallowed up with immortality. I'm not going to keep preaching this, and I'm not going to keep warning a generation that everything is falling into place. Revelation 13, the Bible says in Revelation 13, verse 15, it says the false prophet, and this is who this is talking to, will be granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Now remember, this image will be able to, again, it will have the ability to speak and cause people to worship the Antichrist. And again, when you jump up here to Revelation 13:14, it says that the false prophet will tell those who dwell on the earth to make this image. Now, and I just showed you this. I just showed you one example in this podcast of a company called HoloBox. And I'm not saying they're going to be the company, but I'm just giving you an example. Here's a company that's creating these holograms that is being put into hospitals and facilities that will interact with people and cause them, watch this, to interact with them. Can you all see this? Now it's not so far-fetched to read Revelation 13 and read the description of this image, this ikonai in Greek, icon, that will speak and cause people to worship the Antichrist. Number two, that now it doesn't seem so far-fetched. And number two, remember, the false prophet will seek out and handpick people that will have the skills and the understanding and the knowledge, the know-how, the innovation to be able to create such a thing. My friend, we are here. Wake up. Wake up and realize that the clock is ticking, my friend. Time is running out. We don't have much time left. I believe, friends, there is all prophecy is being fulfilled at breakneck speed. We are on the precipice of major prophetic wars that we've talked about. I'm not going to rehash all that on this segment. We've talked about this, the technology, the mark of the beast. It's here. The image of the beast technology. It's here. The political upheaval and the geopolitical environment and climate is here to produce the Antichrist and this one world government and its system. All of this is here. And I want to leave you with Luke 21:28. Jesus said, when you begin to see all of these things come into pass, look up, lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Listen, endtimeheadlines.org, endtimeheadlines.com. Guys, again, I want to encourage you, if you've not downloaded our free app, please go pick it up today at your Apple and Android store. Listen, it's going to, when you download the app, if you're new, this is the first time you've joined us and you're downloading our app for the first time today, it's going to prompt you to hit yes to push notifications. Please do that because, and for you guys who already have our app, you already know the push notifications have not been working for the last week. Again, we are working on getting this fixed as soon as possible. I found out more information on this. Apparently, there is something, our certificate for this particular plugin has expired. We didn't know that it was coming up, so we had to renew that. We had to get the app. We had to get the Apple to put out an update on the app for the Apple Store, and then we had to have Android put an update out on the Google Play Store. So once everything's submitted, we're just waiting on the updates. Once these updates come through, your push notifications are going to come through. But please download the app, hit yes to push notifications. Why? Because when you do this, guys, it's going to keep you updated on every headline, every podcast, every prophetic update. Everything we put out there, it's going to be right there at your fingertips, and you'll get that. You'll see the notifications for that. And of course, as always, guys, if this ministry blesses you, encourages you, equips you, and informs you of the times and seasons in which we're in, we want to encourage you to pray about becoming a monthly partner. You can do that two different ways. You can give electronically through the app or through the main website, or you can give by check or money order right there on your screen. End Time Headlines, P.O. Box 1391. That's Monroe, Georgia, 30655. Now, guys, listen to me. Tomorrow, I know we've given you information overload. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, Lord willing, we're going to be back here, and we've got I believe it's going to be a powerful, equipping message. I believe you're going to love it. It's a word for somebody out there. It may not be for everybody, but it's a word for somebody. I'm almost got this complete in my notes. I've been putting this message together, and I can't wait to deliver it on tomorrow night, again, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll be off Wednesday, and again, Lord willing, be back Thursday and Friday. And I don't know fully what we'll be discussing, but we'll have something lined up for you. We just kind of play it by ear, depending on the news and what's going on, the headlines. Either it'll be information or it'll be revelation, equipping, encouragement, all of the above, or whatever, that the Lord puts on our heart. So either way, we'll have something lined up for you. So until we see you guys tomorrow night, I pray the Lord bless you, may keep you, and may his countenance shine upon you. We'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to the End Time Headlines podcast. We pray that you've been blessed and equipped by today's message. For more information about how you can help partner with our ministry, please visit endtimeheadlines.org.